Hi, my name is Alicia. Welcome to my tutorial for Linux beginners on how to download CentOS 8 and how to install it on a VMware virtual machine. The first step is to go to centos.org and click download. We are going to be downloading CentOS Linux, not CentOS Stream. Click on the x86 64-bit. This brings you to a page with a bunch of different mirrors that have the ISO image available that we need to download. I would suggest choosing one of the mirrors from your region. Only if they're not available, then move on to the mirrors further away. I'm going to choose the first in the list. And it brings you to a page where you can download the DVD ISO. Click here. And it opens up the dialog box that you can then save the ISO file. The way to know that you have chosen the correct one is based on the size, 8.6 gigabytes. It is quite large. The reason for that is because the ISO file itself contains the entire CentOS operating system. So then you would click on OK. I've already downloaded the ISO image, so I'm not going to download it again. If you didn't download the image before starting this tutorial, then I would suggest pausing my video and coming back to us once the download is complete. The next step is to launch your VMware workstation, and we're going to be creating a new virtual machine. You do that by clicking here, and doing that launches the new virtual machine wizard. For our configuration, we're going to choose Typical, then click Next. For the guest operating system installation, you have three options. We're going to choose the last one, which is I will install the operating system later. Then click Next. Then we would select the guest operating system, which in this case would be Linux, and the version. It's a drop-down menu. You can see here there's a whole bunch of different Linux versions that you could choose. But again, we're choosing the CentOS 8 64-bit, and then click Next. For the virtual machine name, you can name your machine whatever you'd like. I'm just going to be leaving the default. And for the location, again, you can choose whatever you'd like just by hitting the Browse button here. It's the path for where your virtual machine is going to be saved on your host machine. I'm just going to leave mine as the default again as well, and then click Next. The recommended size for CentOS 8 64-bit is 20 gigabytes. You can leave that at 20 gigabytes if you'd like. I'm going to change mine, and I'm going to double it to 40. The reason I'm doing that is because any Linux version, not just CentOS 8, they're all very customizable. There's a lot of different things that you could download to change it more to your liking. And it's always better to have more room on your hard drive than not enough. The default is the split the virtual disk into multiple files here. I'm going to leave that as it is, and then click Next. So here we've got all of our details for the virtual machine that we're going to be creating. If you need to change anything, you can click here to customize your hardware. I don't need to change anything, so I'm going to click Finish. So now we've created our new virtual machine. First step here is going to be to edit that machine. The memory right now is set to 1 gigabyte. That's the recommended amount. I'm going to change mine up to 4 gigabytes. You can leave yours at the 1 if you'd like. It does tend to make things move just a little bit quicker. And next thing that we're going to have to choose to change here is the CD/DVD IDE. Right now it's set to auto detect, and that's not what we want, so just click on it. And then click here on Use ISO Image File. Then we're going to click Browse, and we're going to find the ISO file that we just downloaded. Mine is stored in download still. Yours should be as well, unless you've purposely moved it somewhere else. So click on the file that we've just downloaded until the file name appears here, and then click Open. So now that we've done this, we've now linked our ISO, which again holds our operating system, to our virtual machine's virtual CD/DVD drive. Make sure that Connect at Power On is clicked. It should be clicked automatically. And then click OK. Usually when you're launching a virtual machine in VMware, you would just click here for power on this virtual machine. Because we haven't actually installed the operating system yet, we don't want to do that. We want to move up here to where this green play button is, to the down arrow beside it. Click there, and click power on to firmware. So doing that launches this BIOS setup utility. Click on the screen of the utility. Then on your keyboard, use the right arrow button and scroll sideways until boot is highlighted. Next on your keyboard as well, use the down arrow button until CD-ROM drive is highlighted. Then on your keyboard, using the shift button as well as the equal and plus sign button, click on it twice to move the CD-ROM drive up to the top of your list. Doing so will boot from the CD-ROM drive, and we previously just attached our ISO file to our CD-ROM drive, so that's what we want. Then on your keyboard, use the right arrow button again to scroll sideways to exit. Exit saving changes is already highlighted, which is what we want, so on your keyboard, click Enter. We do want to save this configuration, so again on your keyboard, click Enter. It will automatically boot in 60 seconds if you want to wait. If you don't want to wait, then again on your keyboard just click Enter, and the installation process will shortly begin. It does take a while, so I'm going to take a quick second just to explain why I recommend using VMware Workstation for Linux beginners, and then I'm going to pause the recording while it continues downloading, and then we'll come back. So the reason why I suggest VMware is because, as I said earlier, Linux is very customizable. So for me, using a virtual machine, it doesn't necessarily have to be VMware, but any virtual machine for beginners for Linux really is the best choice. It gives you the chance to play with the different configurations without risking doing any damage to your actual host computer. It also gives you the chance to download different versions of Linux so that you can see which ones you would prefer. And you can do all of this again without doing any damage or making any changes to your host computer. So again, this will take a little bit of time to finish the installation process here, so I'm just going to pause the recording and we'll come back to it as soon as it's done. Hello and welcome back to our installation guide. So next we're going to want to choose the language that we want to use during the installation process. You can choose, of course, whichever language works best for you. I'm going to choose English and English United States. Once you've chosen your language, click Continue. The next thing we need to do is click on the installation destination. Automatically, the hard drive that we configured earlier with the 40 gigabytes is selected, and down here automatic is selected as well for the storage configuration. We're going to leave all of that and just click Done. The next thing that we're going to do is click on the network and host name and click here to turn our internet on. Then click Done. And the last thing we have to do before beginning our install is setting up our root password. So you can choose whatever password you'd like. Just make sure that it's something that you are going to remember. Enter it once and then confirm it, of course. If your password consists of a word that can be found in the dictionary, then you will have to click on Done twice. If not, just click on it once, and it brings you back to the installation summary. So now we're going to click Begin Installation, and it begins the installation process. This again is going to take a bit of time, so again I'm going to pause the recording and I'll come back to you. So now our installation is complete. So I've gone in and I've gone through here once I've already been logged in, and I set up a new user so that I don't have to log in as root. You of course will have to log in as root to start with. So Use your username and then your password. And you can sign in. So again, like I said, I created a new user, and I would suggest doing that right away. You just click on here, and you have your user root. Click on that. Click on account settings, and you've got users here, and you can add a new user. So the reason I suggest doing that is because root is a privileged user. There's a lot of things that you can do in root automatically without having to use special phrasing that you would have to use as a regular user that can make changes to your computer. So that just makes sure that you don't accidentally do something that you really don't want to that could crash your entire virtual machine. Again, though, it is just a virtual machine, so if you happen to do that, then it's not a big deal. You can just start a new one and you won't have done any damage to your host computer. So now we're completely done. We've done our installation. You click on activities here and you've got your browser. Here you've got all of your files. You can go into your command terminal, which I highly suggest for new Linux users that you play quite a bit with the command terminal, as there's a lot you can do in Linux with it. And now we've come to the end of the video, so if anybody has any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below the video, and I'll try to get back to people and help in any way that I can. Thanks very much, and I hope that you guys enjoyed and that it was helpful.